Welcome to another episode of the Halas Huddle podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome in, Halas Huddlers, to another episode of the Halas Huddle podcast. Huddle up! We are in episode 53. This is I actually had to look up some names. I obviously knew of one, but I had to look up a couple. Tell me if any names stuck out to you. The names that I had was Nick Roach, linebacker for, 5-6 years. Ladarius Mack, just because of the connection to Khalil Mack, right?
Well, that'd be interesting because episode 52 was Mack, obviously. So
right.
This could be the return of the Mack.
There we go. I mean, that actually sounds cooler than me just saying TJ Edwards, who's the current number 53.
Now, wasn't there a 53 with like the late 90s Bears? Was Holdman 53?
Maybe.
I didn't look it up ahead of time. So,
yeah.
But I'm excited about TJ Edwards, just like with Tremaine Edmonds for episode 49. I think we got to go with the new guy.
Yeah.
Highly touted free agent. So this is the TJ Edwards episode.
I like it. We're a day removed from Tennessee Titans versus Chicago Bears, and Bears are winners, 23-17. Preseason scores mean absolutely nothing, but it's always good to get a win, I feel like, under your belt, especially for a young team. This is kind of going to just be like a general overview of that game. We have a special addition to our team.
We have two new members of our team, right?
Yeah. Some insider reporters that we got they'll be coming up later in this episode.
Super huddlers, if you will.
Super huddlers, that's right. We're going to look at the rookies. We're going to do a rookie watch that will continue throughout the season and see how the rookies are doing this year. But just to get us started, let's just generally go over the game. First, I'm going to just throw it at you, few things at you. I don't have my notes with me. I wrote 5 pages of notes and I forgot to bring them. First drive was kind of rough. They had let up 3 third down conversions, allowed them to put up 7. Couple guys stood out. There was a couple close, almost turnovers, right? You had actually texted me, and I hadn't started watching the game yet.
Kyler Gordon, boy, he came out sticking fools. He was just popping guys. I mean, the very first play was a play-action rollout, and the receiver was insanely open, so it was kind of like a flashback to last year. But then Kyler Gordon comes out of nowhere and just smashes the dude. So that kind of got me going, feeling good. And later in the drive, he also stuck a guy real hard, breaking up a pass. They reviewed it. Yeah, they reviewed it to see if it was a catch and a fumble. Yeah. They got the right call. And you're right. It seemed like that first drive, Tennessee could do whatever they wanted and scored 7. And I was kind of like, oh, this is good. Because now Fields and the offense have to respond.
Yeah. So going back real quick, though, with the challenge flag, I know it's preseason and you got to do those things. But watching it live, I knew it wasn't going to get overturned and be a fumble. If it wasn't preseason, do you think he does that challenge?
I didn't mind the challenge. When you watch it slow, it looked like it was just about enough because he did control it. He had his 2 feet.
He just did the turn, but he didn't really
kind of did the turn. So it's one of those where I think it would have stayed the call.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a problem with that challenge. In the first half, you lose a timeout. That's not the biggest deal in the world. Obviously, you don't get that challenge back
from being on the board.
Exactly. And they had driven right down the field. So to get the turnover there, they were already in the red zone. So I didn't have a problem with it. But again, preseason game, the outcome isn't what matters so much.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you're kind of right. It was kind of a throwaway challenge. You don't just challenge because you want the call to be different.
Right.
You actually have to believe it was wrong.
Right. Well, and there was another one later in the game that Tennessee did that I also was like, I don't know why you're challenging this because the call was correct.
Yeah. Well, I want to go to one more thing. It started in the first drive, but it continued much, much longer than that. But I thought Tyrique Stevenson showed out right from the beginning of the game and pretty much all the way through the time he was in. There was some good instincts.
Yeah, there's a couple times that he was getting burnt early, but he locked it in.
Yeah.
but it was just the energy that he brought, right?
Yes.
Like, so if you want to talk hits principles, like I feel like he's bringing what they want to see. And that's good because he was losing reps to Terrell Smith, and Terrell Smith didn't play because of an injury. But like, I feel like this kind of sets him apart a little bit, right? Like, obviously Smith can't play. We'll have to see if he can play in the second game against the Colts. But yeah, Stevenson was an excellent watch. And I'm glad to see that because I wasn't like super high on the pick when it happened.
So I think we're going to talk hits principle a bunch today because I think you saw it out there. A lot of intensity, turnovers, unfortunately, on both sides of the ball. Because the turnovers on the defense, you're supposed to force them. And on offense, you're supposed to value the ball. And we saw some unfortunate plays offensively when it comes to turnovers. Real sloppy second quarter for both teams.
Yeah, wow. And one of those came on special teams.
Yeah, that's its own segment, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's now go to the next.
You want to go offense first and then talk defense, maybe?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I even wrote it out that way.
So I'll start with the offense, but I'm actually going to start by asking you a question.
Okay.
All right.
I like when Justin does this. I know I say it all the time because I have no idea. Like, I write a general outline. I have no idea specifics of what he's going to bring to the table.
And I don't know how you're going to answer it. So I have the answer. This is a question where it is open-ended, but there's a right answer.
Okay.
So.
All right. Let's see if I can pass. Because I failed at trivia when I was going to Bears camp the other day.
Uh-oh. So let me ask you, what were the two biggest knocks against Justin Fields from last season in regards to him as a passer?
Okay. So fairly easy, I believe. So the two biggest knocks was him not being able to throw the short and intermediate passes, typically the dink and dunk game, specifically to the running backs, but even just the short game to try to get himself out of trouble. That was one. I might not have the same answer you have, but to me, the second answer was, and maybe this kind of goes hand in hand, not throwing those anticipatory throws, which throws your guy open, which kind of means he's holding on to the ball a little too long.
Exactly. And I wrote down here, not getting the ball out on time, not hitting on short, easy throws.
Yeah.
So he only was in for 2 drives. He only threw 3 passes.
3 passes.
And they were short. They were simplistic.
Yeah.
They were, for the most part, on time, although I do want to delve into one that I think maybe wasn't on time. The result ended up good. But then you hear some Bears fans, I'm not saying it was a majority or anything like that.
Let's say it's not just Bears fans.
Okay, maybe it's not just Bears fans.
But you hear some fans are out, and they're moving the goalposts.
You hear some critics kind of going like, oh, those stats aren't valid, and he didn't throw it downfield. Look, it's preseason. To throw downfield, you need time, and then you risk him getting hit. He didn't get touched this game. He completed every pass he threw, and the 2 drives he was on ended with 7 points. You can't do it any better than that. It was a successful game. Move on to week 2.
Yeah. So last season, I can't remember who tweeted this out. I think it was Courtney Cornyn. The Chicago Bears did not have any plays over 50 yards. Go for a touchdown.
Go for a touchdown. Okay. That makes sense.
In 2 plays, they had 2 that went for over 60. Is that going to happen?
Herbert's was 58. I could be wrong.
I thought it was 60.
Over 50 though, to your point.
Either way, we can't expect this every time. Okay. One, it's preseason, but to what you were saying, Justin Fields did exactly what he needed to do. And he talked about it in his press conference. Look, if we can work in these short intermediate passes, we can get the running game going early. It's going to get defensive coordinators frustrated. They're going to start moving guys in. That's when we get to take our shots downfield. So what they're doing is they're sucking in that defense. If the plays work, it's fantastic. Do you know how many times I have watched Patrick Mahomes throw to Tyreek Hill 4 or 5 yards out? And I know Justin Fields were like basically behind the line of scrimmage, right? But 4 or 5 yards out, and he takes it for 50, 60 yards for a touchdown.
That's knowing your personnel.
Right.
That's taking the safe completion. But here's the thing. When the ball comes out on time, it's not just about Fields, and it's not just about DJ Moore.
No.
That play by DJ Moore, obviously, first of all, he comes on the scene. He shows us right away what a receiver number 1 looks like.
Whew.
Okay? But
fantastic.
That throw, which could have been a little better, was good enough that Tevin Jenkins and Braxton Jones are coming out and just clearing the path for DJ Moore to the point that he barely got touched until the very goal line when he's crossing over for a 62 yard touchdown.
Even Darnell Mooney sealed the outside, sealed the inside, I should say, for him to get that seam right there between him and Braxton Jones. Then you had Tevin Jenkins, like you said. I mean, it was a fantastic play. The timing was there with the blocking. The pass was a little low, I felt. Some people will say it was way behind him.
Not way behind.
He had to throw it that way. That was where he had to put it.
Yeah. My gut instinct was it wasn't the best pass. I watched it more and more and more. It was fine.
Yeah, perfectly fine.
And we saw the end result. Now, I do want to talk about the screen to Herbert.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about holding on to the ball too long, I watched that one again and again and again. Because even at the first glance, one of the thoughts, when you see Herbert catch the ball, juggle it a little
bit,
but he caught it. And this time it wasn't Jenkins and it wasn't Jones. This time it was Carter and Whitehair leading the charge. They had pulled from center and right guard, and were leading the charge. They were already so far up that I was like, was that ineligible downfield? So we'll come back to that in a second. But it was the Titans brought 2 extra guys, and it was a screen, obviously. And as Herbert's exiting to go on his route, he does get kind of hip checked, so that threw him off a little bit. We can't show it, obviously, anything like that, but I froze it at 1:39 on the clock. I feel like Fields could have just lobbed it over, catch, same result. He kind of pump fakes, escapes, and then throws it probably like a second and a half or 2 seconds later. And in my opinion, I thought those guys had then gone more than the yard they're allowed downfield. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe I don't have a full understanding of that rule. Sometimes you get a call or a call's not made. I also thought for no reason, Equinemius St. Brown almost pushed in the back at the end. But there was no laundry on the field. Beautiful touchdown. Great way for Fields to end his day. 2 drives, both lasted probably under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And they got 14 points.
Talk about efficiency. To the penalty, I know we talked about it. I had done some research trying to figure out the exact rule. In the rule book, it doesn't really state it. However, I got confirmation from Greg Gabriel on social media, who did say that this is correct. Because the ball did not go past the line of scrimmage, the offensive linemen were fine to be where they were. Now, when the ball came out of Justin Fields' hand, Whitehair was actually only about 1.5 yards past line of scrimmage.
I think he was in front of Carter slightly.
Oh, okay, maybe I hit him backwards. Yeah. Okay, one of them was like 1.5 yards. I just assumed Carter would have trailed, but I guess maybe Carter's faster than Whitehair. He's a little younger. Was about 1.5 yards. Now, Whitehair, being the one that was further up, was probably closer to 2-3 yards. Now, I also read, though, that it's kind of subjective. The rule states 1 yard, but it's, from what I understand, from what I was reading, it's kind of subjective to what the referee decides, and sometimes they give up to 3 yards.
Well, I didn't think you were going to say the thing about behind the line. I thought you were going to say something about pass rush. If the pass rush is past the line of scrimmage or something like that, they're allowed further up. But either way, no flag on the play.
No flag.
It's preseason for the refs as well.
Yeah.
But that was just an example of, could he have just gotten rid of it right away, not risk getting hit, which he didn't end up getting hit. He's an amazing athlete with amazing agility. So it all worked out.
And I agree with you. He probably didn't need to do this because the play developed the way you were talking. But sometimes with those screen passes, you kind of do have to draw the guys in as close as you can before you can get rid of it. So maybe that's what his mind was thinking.
They were coming.
Yeah. Well, at first you saw him look more to the right, faking the pass to the right, but it was clearly a screen.
Yes.
And then came back to the left, and it was like they were already there.
Yeah, you got to sell it. But
yeah,
I'm glad he didn't take a hit. I'm glad he completed the pass. I'm glad Herbert caught it, juggled it a little and caught it. Blocks were set up. Beautiful play.
Yeah, I forgot to throw up our graphics. I'm just going to throw it up here because I love it, and we'll just keep talking offense here a little bit. But yeah, Justin Fields, very efficient, did exactly what we needed him to do. And like I already alluded to, a lot of Packers fans are out there because they're a little butthurt right now when it comes to Jordan Love, who didn't have a horrible preseason game. They should just be happy with what they got. it's so frustrating. And it's Bears fans too, some of them who don't want to see Justin Fields succeed for some reason. But they keep moving the goalpost. It's last year he can't throw these intermediate short throws. He can't hit the throws that he needed to throw. Well, he did that. He did it. They were on target where they needed to be. 2 of them turned into touchdowns. Like now they're saying, oh, well, you're just, padding the stats. The stats don't tell the whole story, blah, 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 blah. It's like, which one is it? Again, stop moving the damn goalpost.
It's dumb. I mean, we've known for a long time that quarterback statistics, yards after catch, goes towards the quarterback's yardage.
Yeah.
But throwing the ball where it needs to be is how you get more of that.
Exactly.
And having players like DJ Moore helps you get that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it many times. This is the year where the talent level around him is up. The level of excuses should be down. We hope to see better results. And these are much better results. Now, granted, it's just 2 series. Had it been a real game, we got to see what he does the rest of the way. But there's nothing to complain about. There's nothing to be upset about. Move on to week 2. I want to say one more thing about the offense, and then maybe we transition. But in that second drive, actually in both drives, the very first play got a first down. So right away, you're just moving the chains.
Yeah.
But it was not a pass on the second drive. It was a sweep to the right on a pitch to Herbert. And Darnell Wright got out there and took out 2 Titans. And he looked very agile, big dude out there, strong big dude, but took out a player and a half that could have been potential tacklers. And it's just good to see. I thought the O-line played pretty well. Obviously, we're missing Nate Davis, but I thought Carter stepped in and filled in nicely.
Carter looked fine. I have to admit, like, I'm the one that keeps talking negatively about Darnell Wright. Maybe negatively is too strong of a word, more objectively, because I wasn't as high on him as others. He impressed me. I think there's only one play where I was kind of like, that wasn't that great, but he didn't have a horrible game. Like most plays were positive and not negative. The other ones were just, did what he needed to do. And when you don't go noticed, that's usually a good thing as an offensive lineman.
Absolutely. I know we said we're going to talk offense and defense, but when are we going to talk special teams?
Let's just throw it in now. Okay,
right.
We'll go special teams right in between.
I got a lot to say about this man, but
I have a perfect segue from special teams into defense, so let's go special teams right.
All right. Well, Velus Jones, if you've been paying attention, is kind of on the cusp on whether or not he's going to make this team or not.
He has to be.
And for him to make the team, he's got to be a special teams contributor and some kind of gadget play guy.
Yeah.
Now, you're not going to show a whole lot of gadget plays in the preseason.
Nope.
And he was listed as number 1 on the depth chart for kick return and didn't have any opportunities to do it last game. I'm not sure about that. But they put him in at punt return, and it was atrocious. I'm not just talking about the muff either. On the first punt, the ball's in the air. It went from line of scrimmage to where it bounces 49 yards. Mm-hmm. He's barely in the picture. So I don't know. Like, it looked like a beautiful day out in Soldier Field. I mean, you got to play your personnel and play weather conditions, but he must have been thinking he was going to field a 65-yard punt. So he lets it bounce, fields it with no momentum, and runs east-west. And that was his better return of the 2.
Yeah.
The second one, once again, way too far back. These balls had hang time. It wasn't like they were shanks or line drive punts. This time it takes a huge hop. Okay, you should catch it in the air or you should fair catch it. One of those two. Once you've done neither, you need to get the heck out of the way and tell all your teammates to get the heck out of the way.
Yep. Yeah. How many times do you see guys like clear your own teammates out? Like, go, right? Like,
so he has no awareness of what he's doing out there.
Yeah.
So that eliminates punt return.
Yep.
And I was the guy last year, well, especially once they were kind of like eliminated, that if you remember, I kept saying, throw him in now. Let him learn now.
Get him his reps.
If he messes up, who cares? And they didn't.
Nope.
And I'm not saying that led to this, but now I'm wondering, can he be in punt return? So if you eliminate punt return, yes, he's looked okay in kick return.
Yeah.
But that's a play that's kind of being phased out of the NFL as we speak.
Right. You fair catch it inside and you get it at the 25.
And gadget plays, I mean, I see other athletes on this team that could probably run a gadget play.
Yeah.
Now, Tyler Scott had his own fumble in the game, and I really like a lot about him. But Velus Jones is on the cusp of not making this team. And that, in some ways, would be a shame. But the Bears want to be competitive this year. You got to put your best players out there.
So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, and I'm going to defend him a little bit, even though I don't agree with me defending him. So I don't know if you caught it, but I listened to the Matt Eberflus press conference after the game, and he did state that this punter has the ability to kick it more than 60 yards. So they were playing their guys deep, and he both times punted the ball to the point where it was a nose up and a nose down. And he said those are one of the hardest ones to field when you're playing deep. So the punter played it correctly, right? But Matt Eberflus also said you mentally need to know you had enough time basically to get there.
Yes, you did. It was high.
He gave him an out, but then also said, yeah, you got to do better.
Basically what you're saying, he should have fair caught both balls.
Correct.
But the first one went 49 yards past scrimmage. The second one went 48.
Yeah.
They were almost identical punts.
Yeah. And
he did the same dumb thing both times.
Right. Yeah. So move up 5-10 yards, 5 yards even, and you're probably going to get there, right? Like, well, it's frustrating.
What's your segue?
So my segue is, if Velus Jones makes this team and Trevis Gipson does not, I am going to get the pitchforks out and I'm going to march on Halas Hall. Now, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I made a comment and you made a comment that made sense, but I'm going to still throw it out there. I'm sick and tired of hearing about just practice. We heard about it last year with Tevin Jenkins. He didn't get the start. It was Lucas Patrick. Lucas Patrick was atrocious. Tevin Jenkins was easily the best offensive lineman on the team last year. Braxton Jones maybe in the argument. Now, Gipson must not be doing enough in practice, so now he's the very bottom of the depth chart, behind guys like DeAnthony Jones and Jalen Harris, guys who are just UDFAs off the street.
He played a lot more reps, though, than if you were fourth string on the depth chart, he played a lot more reps than that.
Right. And
he used them to his advantage.
But your comment was maybe them putting him there sparked this, and maybe you shouldn't need that, right? Like, he shouldn't need that inspiration. But maybe this works. Maybe this is the time to do it, right? Like, hey, you got to do better or you're not making this team. Well, he balled out. He was getting pressures more than anyone else out there, and he finally got to him, got his sack. It's going to be tough because there's some depth there at defensive end.
Yeah, that position has a lot of guys that I'm intrigued by. Honestly, one of them who I haven't been that intrigued by is Dominique Robinson.
Yeah,
so maybe he's much. The odd man out. But Gipson did get a lot of pressures on the quarterback. He also played well against the run.
Yeah.
And some of the pressures, he didn't actually get to the quarterback. And I criticized a little bit that first view of the game.
Yeah.
But when I watched the second time, there was 2 times where he just totally beats the left tackle, and the left guard comes to clean up and is what knocks him off the route to the quarterback. So it wasn't like he just had a shot at the quarterback and missed.
Right.
But he played well against the run, kept his contain, and then lowered his pad level to make these tackles. I was very impressed with Gipson pretty much across the board.
Yeah, the defense as a whole played really well outside of that first drive, right? They settled in. So just really quick, who are, 3 to 5 guys who really, really stood out to you, unless there's more that you need to say specifically to the defense, but you can maybe incorporate it. And this doesn't have to be offense or defense or special teams specific. You can go anywhere. But who are 3 to 5 guys that you felt stood out to you in a positive way that we need to talk about?
Well, honestly, you didn't say in a positive way when you did the notes.
Right, so go ahead and go negative.
I'm not going to go too negative, and we already talked about this guy, but I was really impressed with Trevis Gipson, as we just talked about. I was very impressed with Tyrique Stevenson. His instinct, his ability to make the tackle, even got his hands on a ball, though kind of wish he had picked it. And then Terrell Smith. Every time you saw Gipson making a pressure,
Lewis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They have both.
I'm sorry. You're right. Terrell Smith didn't play. You're right. Terrell Lewis was pretty much making as many pressures as Gibson as well. And
That's
he made it
early
in the game. He made a bad play. So he made a good play. He's wearing 52. And I said, all right, there you go. You know, live up that number 52. Then he jumps offside. I'm like, take that damn jersey off.
Yeah. But then
the rest of the game, he made up for it.
I think it was the very next play is when he got the strip fumble.
No, when he jumped off sides, it led to 3rd and goal, 4th and goal, and then they scored. That was early in the game. But
all right, for some reason I thought it was the very next one that he got there.
Unless he jumped off twice, but I don't know about that.
Because they were within. I mean, it ended up being 3rd and they had 4 yards to go, and then it was only 2 yards to go because it was half the distance to the goal. Right. That's how close they were.
And then the
again,
other guy
I don't have my notes in front of me.
The other guy that stood out was Halas, but we already talked about that.
Halas.
So who were yours?
Yeah, so I mean, I had quite a few guys that I thought really stood out. Tyrique Stevenson, we talked about already. Kyler Gordon, it was a short amount of time, but the fact that he looks like he's ready to play that position, the nickel position, and play it well.
Yeah, there's one where he drops to a further depth in coverage, but then reads that the pass is coming up to the closer receiver.
Yeah.
And he made the break at the perfect time.
Yeah.
That might have been the one that was
the one that he almost got the fumble. Let's see. Travis Gibson obviously was one that stood out to me. Terrell Lewis was one that stood out to me. Obviously DJ Moore and Khalil Herbert, but I'm not going to throw them in there. Doug Kramer, I thought, did pretty well. Snapping the ball, never had any snap issues, and I didn't really let up any pressures from the inside. I will admit I missed the last 2-3 minutes of the game. I don't even know if he was in at that point, though. Probably not. God, I really wish I had
very late in the game. Travis Bell,
he
was making an appearance. He made a sack, but he was getting a lot of push.
Yeah. That's what not Dominique Robinson. Gervon Dexter and Zacch Pickens. Those were the two.
Yes.
Zacch Pickens got on the stat sheet, but both of them, that inside pressure and honestly why Lewis and Gibson were able to do what they were doing.
Exactly. They were sucking up 2 blockers every time.
Yeah.
And holding their own against the run. The D-line played much better against the run than what we saw last year. And all of this, by the way, there was no Tremaine Edmonds, although he only would have been in a drive or two anyway.
Right.
But it's exciting to imagine what it could look like when you put all those guys out there.
Yeah.
Kind of talked a lot there, and we're going to do a separate rookie watch. But should we invite our buddies in?
Yes, we're going to do that after the ad break. But before the ad break, we have 2 correspondents, insiders, super huddlers that are now going to be a part of the Halas Huddle podcast. And we're going to throw it over to Mitch Brodinsky and Jim McFan.
All right. Take it away, fellas.
Good day, Bears fans. Welcome into this week's episode of the Bearody Report.
The Bearody Report. Tastes like mustache.
Ooh. I'm Mitch Brodinsky. And as always, I'm joined by the handsome, the intelligent, the most physically gifted man outside of the man himself,
Ditka.
Coach Ditka. Even Mike Ditka has said this man is the man. Jim McFan.
Hey, thanks, Mitch. Appreciate that introduction. I'm looking forward to you and I giving the Bears fans what they want to hear each and every week. I think our connection is going to be as good as Mitch Trubinsky and Allen Robinson's back in 2018.
That was a good year.
Good year. Should have went to the promised land for those two doinks.
The
doinks.
Well, we also need to say thanks to Rob and Justin for bringing us on to the Halas Huddle podcast. Each week, we're going to give you the Bear Report.
The Bearody Report. Thanks, fellas.
So this report, we're going to talk about last week's game, and then we're going to give our predictions for the upcoming game. So let's talk Tennessee Titans versus the Chicago Bears. The Bears.
The Bears.
It was a pretty good game. The outcome wasn't exactly what I thought. I thought it was going to be a shellacking. But what did you think about the game, Jim?
Hey, Mitch, you know what? As I watched that game, I started to have flashbacks to some really great Bears defense. 8 sacks, 4 takeaways, 0 second half points. In fact, I'm not even sure they're going to give up any more points the rest of this season. Unless, of course, they decide to let up some just to keep it interesting. What did you see out there, Mitch?
Well, we had an inside report. Like I said, the shellacking wasn't there, but an inside report said that Matt Eberflus, he channeled his inner Ditka, and he actually spotted the Tennessee Titans 7 points on that opening drive.
That makes sense.
It wasn't that he was trying to, be nice. He was just trying to make it more challenging for his players.
What'd you think about Justin Fields?
Whew, Justin Fields. He threw 3 passes. All 3 of them were completed. 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, if he plays all season, he's going to throw for over 15,000 yards and 233 touchdowns.
How many? Give me the over on both.
Oh, yeah. There we go. The Bears.
The Bears. Justin Fields. You know, Mitch, I was crunching the numbers a little bit. Don't forget, there's a 17th game now. So I'm thinking Fields just under 1,000 a game. Probably going to end up with about 16,783 yards.
That's a lot of yards.
That's a lot, but hey, he can do it. As far as touchdowns, probably average around a baker's dozen. I got him coming in at 235 touchdowns this season.
I like those numbers. I do. All right. Well, Jim, I think it's time for us to get to next week's predictions. Chicago Bears.
The Bears
are going to be facing off against the Colts of Indianapolis. Who do you have winning this game? And what do you think the prediction of the score is going to be?
Oh, boy. Well, I got Bears 68, Colts 2.
Oh, 2. Safety.
The only reason they get the 2, it's a muff punt by Velus Jones, goes through the back of the end zone.
Oh.
But you know what? After the game, I think Eberflus reaches out to Mr. Ridiculous himself, Devin Hester.
Ooh.
He comes back, about 12 return touchdowns this season. And finally, he'll be ready for that coat, the color of the only condiment you ever put on a dog. And he goes to the hall. The hall. What do you got for the score, Mitch?
I think it's going to be 72-3. Obviously, the Bears are going to be victorious. They're going to come into this game like Grizzlies, and they're going to devour those ponies, just like I would devour a deep dish pizza.
Deep dish pizza. You have the Bears giving up a full 3?
Yeah, they get lucky.
That's fair. All right, well, we're going to send this back over to Rob and Justin. Thanks, fellas. Huddles up.
Huddles up.
Huddles up.
The
Bearody Report. All right, and we are back. Hopefully you enjoyed those ads, as well as the new segment, the Bearody Report with Mitch and Jim. Those guys really sound like they know what they're talking about, don't they?
They might take our jobs.
I'm worried, man. Super huddlers.
That's right.
Those guys know their stuff and really bring the passion.
Yes.
And
those stashes, man.
Oh, man. I'm working on mine. Mine
but does not look as good.
Theirs were on point. So, first part of the show, we kind of broke down the preseason game number 1, Bears versus Titans. Talked a lot about the first string offense and Fields, but then we just kind of talked about offense, special teams, and defense. But to kind of finish off the show, what we want to talk about now is the rookies. You mentioned that preseason, it's not about the score. It's not even about wins and losses, but it is about seeing what your new players can do. And the Bears brought in a lot of rookies. Yeah. Many or most of them got some action in yesterday's game. And we kind of want to just talk about some of the major ones that we're keeping an eye on
Basically
and how they progressed.
The guys
picks.
they drafted,
Yeah.
right? We didn't really talk about UDFAs, although there is one I will mention at one point.
I wonder if it's the guy I'm thinking of.
We'll see.
All right, but Rob, what do you think about the play of the rookies? How do you want to do it? Go over specific ones? We've already mentioned a few.
Yeah, okay, so I created a graphic, and I apologize. It was supposed to be interactive. It is not working the way that I would have liked it to. So you get to see who we thought did well and who we didn't.
You can already see the answer key.
Yeah, the answers are there for you. You can stop watching the show at this point. Please don't.
But if you disagree with those, talk to us in the comments.
That's right.
We didn't plug our thing either.
Well, and I was about to do it right now because before you go, because you see the answers, hit the subscribe button, get the free Justin Fields jersey. And I actually haven't said this to Justin yet. I think we're going to change it. I don't think it's going to specifically be Justin Fields because here's the thing. How many people already have a Justin Fields jersey?
Interesting.
We're going to make it the player of your choice.
Okay.
All right. We're still going to plug the Justin Fields logo because he's the face of the franchise, but maybe you want a DJ Moore jersey.
Maybe you want a Travis Bell jersey.
Maybe you want a Gervon Dexter jersey. They're right there on that graphic. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Remember, if we get to 750 subscribers, we're going to do the drawing. We've had a big push lately, but we got to get further along. And in order to do that, you got to share it with people. Let other people know about our show that are Bears fans, whether they're your grandmother, your hairdresser, the local person at the grocery store, whoever it is. You see some random person on the street, they're wearing a Bears shirt. Hey, have you heard of the Halas Huddle? It's a great podcast. You should check it out.
Have you heard of the Bearody Report?
Yeah, that's the new one. All right. So do that. Get your chance of getting a free jersey. Also hit the like button right now too, because if we don't ask, you probably forget. All right. Rookie watch. First pick, 10th pick in the draft. Got a 4th rounder included with that, Darnell Wright. I wasn't as high on him. We already alluded to it, though. He had a great game. Great game. Way better than what I thought was going to happen. I thought he was going to be struggling based on what we've heard, what I saw at training camp.
Yeah, I mean, I already highlighted a play where I thought he stood out in a very positive way. I'll be honest with you. Beyond that, I didn't really notice him. But as you said, going unnoticed on the offensive line is typically a good thing. You're noticed when you get beat and give up a sack. You're noticed when you have a pre-snap penalty, which I heard he had like 4 in one practice.
Yeah.
So there was a pretty clean game in regards to that. So I definitely think this was a good debut for Darnell Wright.
I agree.
So we're going to check. It's a green check.
Green check.
Surprise, surprise. So you're going to kind of go in draft order?
I am. Yeah. So Gervon Dexter is next, 2nd round pick out of Florida. Played that 2-gap scheme, the knock on him all offseason, and in his draft reports where he is slow to get off the ball. Everyone, including myself, said, look, a lot of that had to do with the system that he was running or ran in Florida. Having to play that 2-gap, you got to get up, read the quarterback, read the running back, crash into which gap you want to be in. Now he's in a 1-gap scheme. He's just got to go. And I'll be honest, I watched him at training camp and I didn't really like what I saw. It wasn't as slow as what you would see on his film at Florida, but it was still, he was consistently the last guy off the ball. I specifically watched him in this game. He was still the last guy off the ball, but it's getting close. And I feel like the closer that it gets to him being that, watch out, NFL, because many times, even coming slow off the ball, he was penetrating.
Yep.
He was getting pressure through the middle. And he's technically playing the 1-tech, and that's not even really like what he's supposed to be doing.
He's just that strong.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's going to be that guy who's going to be taking on the double teams and keeping the ends free.
Exactly. I mean, he didn't really, I don't know what he had in the stat sheet, but it wasn't about that.
I know he had at least 1 tackle.
He was, I can think of, I think one at least.
It was a rushing play.
But he was constantly going up against 2 players and sometimes winning those.
Yeah.
And if he's taking up 2, that means someone else is only getting 1.
Well, 8
or
sacks.
none. and 8 sacks in total. Now, granted, he wasn't out there for all of that, although he did play quite a bit, as did Zacch Pickens, who we'll talk about in a little bit here. But overall, I was pleased with his effort and with his production. Another green check.
Tyrique Stevenson, we already know he's getting a green check because we've talked a lot about him.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really much else to say, but
led the team in tackles, pass breakup.
Yeah.
Good, really good play on a wide receiver screen where pre-snap, a guy came in motion. So he shifted to the outside to take that guy, and he just read the play.
Yep.
And he got underneath the block, met him for a tackle for loss.
Yeah, that was a fantastic field. And I mean, is an open field tackle.
Yeah. He got called bogus. I don't know what that was. So he probably, he might have still been credited with the tackle there, the penalty yards. But
either way, I don't think Matty Eberflus is upset about that.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
But what also I think stood out with him, like we already said, was the energy. I mean, he just brought it. And I think when you have him and Gordon and Brisker and Eddie Jackson and Kyler Gordon, like that group could be the strength of this defense, which is crazy to think because I felt like it was a really big weakness last year.
Secondary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Compared to everyone else, we thought it was their strength, but
that's not saying much.
Exciting debut for him as well.
Yeah.
Zacch Pickens falls in line with that as well. Zacch Pickens. Zacch Pickens.
Yeah. There we go. That's his new nickname, Zacch Pickens. Why haven't we thought of this? I guarantee
it just came to me.
Somebody had to have said this.
Somebody had to. I mean, it's not that clever.
It isn't, but sometimes the obvious ones are the ones that go missed. So I like it. Zacch Pickens gets his sack. Impressed me because I hadn't seen shit from him or heard anything from him coming out of reports from camp. When I went there, he was non-existent. So I was glad to see him do some damage. And I'm still salty because I still think Zach Harrison as a defensive end would have been a better pick. But we'll have to let that one play out.
Then you don't end up with Yannick Ngakoue, maybe.
I think he would have still been here.
Okay. We actually didn't mention this guy.
We did not.
When we talked offense, but Roschon Johnson, who we know the front office is very, very excited about. They see leadership qualities in him. He had some positive plays. His best run, I thought they actually jumped and went early on. If you want to give it a rewatch, I don't think it impacted the play because he ended up breaking like 4 tackles on his own.
Yeah, you know
he
who
ran
jumped
strong.
Early?
Who?
The rookie that I wanted to mention.
But you did think he jumped early on
that
play?
Yeah.
Okay,
Easily.
I thought they missed that one bad.
I was like, there's a false start. I was like, what?
It was very obvious. 2 guys, I thought. I thought the right tackle and right guard went early on that, but the play went left.
74 for sure jumped offside.
Yeah.
Was way early. 74 is Avante Collins. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you how to pronounce his first name. I think it's Aviante Collins. UDFA, and he was the one offensive lineman that stood out to me as struggling in the game.
Okay. He's a beast of a human.
He is, but
he's humongous.
He was getting beat.
Yeah, he didn't look good out there.
Should have had that flag. I think he did have a false start at one point. Just a rough day for him, but he's a UDFA playing on the second string line as the right tackle.
Yeah. That's why I still think they could be bringing in a guy. But anyway, we lost track. Roschon Johnson.
Well, they did just claim the guy out of
Detroit.
But I don't know if that's going to amount to anything. So.
What do you think of Roschon?
I liked Roschon. I the way he was moving showed his ability to catch the ball. Is the better blocker out of anyone on the team. The sweeps to the right were bad, but for negative yards, but those were the only 2 true negative plays, and I don't really think they were on him because I don't think anyone could have gotten through.
There was an inside run that was designed to go right, and he cuts back left, and 3 defenders land on him, and I think he should have kept with the blocking. Real quick, I know we're focused on the rookies, but since we forgot to talk about Roschon, I think we also kind of forgot to talk about other running backs. Pretty much all of them showed something, except for Deontay Foreman, but you already know what you're going to get out of him, I think. But even Treston Ebner showed something, but I think he might be auditioning for other teams at this point. There's a lot of guys, and they're going to keep Blasingame, so I don't know if there's going to be a role for him.
Yeah, and I haven't read up on. I mean, he didn't come back in the game after his injury, right? He went to the locker room, and I don't even know what the injury is off the top of my head,
sure.
Which is bad as I'm reporting on it. But I never thought he was making the team anyway, so I don't really care.
But he had some good runs, is my point.
Yes. But is that him, or does that attribute to, again, the offensive line, who was one of the best running blocking teams last year?
His runs, he was very shifty. There were a few times he had to make a guy miss, but like I said, he's probably auditioning for 31 teams right now.
By the way, I love the fact that the first play went to Kari Blasingame.
Yeah. Get that fullback involved.
Well, no, but it goes to – we're getting off track here again. I'm sorry.
On purpose, because we don't want to talk about a red X.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'm going to derail it a little bit. But we talked about this last year and the whole Justin Fields thing. Give him some quick, easy throws. And that's what that was. Give him time to get his timing down. Give him confidence to get the chains moving. Like, we didn't see that enough last year. And maybe it was on Justin for not taking those passes. Maybe it was on Luke Getsy for not calling them correctly in, the right orders.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Getsy. Okay, the Bears were 3-14 last year. So you would not expect them to be near the top in any statistic.
Right.
However, they were one of the best teams at scoring early in games when you basically talk about the scripted plays. Okay. And so then you see, and I know preseason, they don't game plan per se,
right,
but they looked sharp in what you would consider the scripted part of the plays.
I'm actually glad you said that because it was still pretty vanilla, but they were executing.
But I imagine it's like, this is what we're going to run, guys, and you get it down.
Right.
So I still want to see, when adversity comes, or like you said, we're going to draw them up.
Yeah.
We're going to do, and then we're going to hit them with our plan B.
Right.
That's what you didn't see from a team that was really good at scoring on the first drive. One of the best teams in the league, I believe.
Yeah.
And then to go 3-14, you obviously weren't scoring too many on your third and fifth and seventh drives.
No.
Sorry. All right. Tyler Scott.
I was expecting big things from him in this game. I thought he's an amazing route runner. I saw him at training camp just shake guys. Jalen Johnson completely fooled him on one of his routes. Just whoop, right out of his shoes. I was expecting to see more from him, especially offensively. I think he only had 2 targets. And the one meant for his fumble. And it was a nice catch.
There was one that PJ Walker threw where he did a hitch and it was a bad throw. He could have caught it. He got one hand on the ball.
Yeah.
But PJ Walker did not play very well.
No.
That was not a good throw. And then he did have a punt return or a kick return
he had some special
game.
teams
He did okay there. I heard an interview with him. He seems like a really sharp guy and like the right mentality and good head on his shoulders. So I actually feel like starting out your first game and have a negative play, let's see how he responds.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's on the hot seat as much as I think a guy like Velus is.
No, but that was part of the problem that we saw from Velus to start in 2022 also. So it's like, and some of the knocks that we've heard about Tyler Scott at camp is his hands. He's got some concentration drops, but the thing is when he does get his hands on the ball, he is electric.
Yep. And we said it early in the show. I thought we'd say it more, but hits principle, turnovers, T is for turnovers. When you're on defense, they want you ball hawking. They want you picking off balls. They want you pounding at the ball, but doesn't mean the offensive guys are off the hook.
Right.
Turnovers when you're on the offense means the ball is valuable. We need to hold on to it at all costs. Tyler Scott with a turnover, that's why you get a red X, my man.
And it would have been had he caught that, he did catch the ball. Had he held on to that ball, I don't think I would have given him a green check, but he probably would have been a circle.
Well, that drive would have continued, and they were headed, I believe that was in the red zone.
Yeah.
So who knows what would have came of it. So that was unfortunate. As you can see there, the only rookie who kind of stood out in a negative way was Tyler Scott.
Which speaks volumes to Ryan Poles. Noah Sewell got a lot of reps because Tremaine Edmonds didn't play and the starters were only in for a short amount of time. Ended up with a sack. I want to say he had 3 solo tackles. I didn't think he was like lights out, like stood out to me like, whoa, Noah Sewell, wow. But he flashed enough where I was like, all right, yeah. This is nice.
Absolutely. I got nothing to add there. Played a decent game.
Yeah. Terrell Smith didn't play.
Despite the fact that I gave him a shout out earlier.
Yeah.
I was actually talking about Terrell Lewis.
That's just how good he is. Travis Bell, you shouted him out already too. Had a sack, was a dominant force. I know it's against 3rd string, 4th string guys, but he was doing what he needed to do as a 7th round draft pick. That's fantastic.
And I think the school he came from, he's like the first player ever drafted from that school.
Yeah.
And it's actually the hometown of Justin Fields. That's another little nugget there.
Oh, nice.
Ryan Poles was really big on this guy, and it's your 7th round pick. So it's kind of like, what's going on? But then he flashed, and Justin Jones was like the biggest cheerleader you have ever seen when Travis Bell got that sack. So you almost wonder, like, has he taken him under his wing? And he's like, you're my guy. I'm going to teach you everything I know. And hopefully one day you're going to, show that, hey, yeah, I'm a 7th round pick. Yeah, I'm from a school that no one really knew much about. But it's about production, man. And so in his one opportunity, he showed out positively. Let's see if he can carry that later into the preseason.
So you shouted out Terrell Smith. I mistyped Kendall Williams' name because I didn't give him the extra L. That's
We'll take the L on this.
Yeah, we'll take the L on this.
You took the L.
I don't know if he even played, to be honest. He didn't show up on the stat sheet. I don't recall seeing him out there.
What number is he?
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot. 47?
47 was the guy's name, Baskerfield.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he played, but I don't recall him playing, so he didn't stand out if he did.
Exactly.
Guess we didn't need to even add him.
Probably not. But he was a draft pick, so I felt like and it made our graphic nice and even. So
could have put our logo in there, but
that's okay.
All right. Well, that's a lot for just a preseason game, but it's been so long since we've been able to analyze a game that
it
felt great.
It was fun.
Week 2 coming up, Colts. They're practicing with them too, leading into it. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, 2 practices down in Indy and then the game on Saturday. And
Eberflus knows them.
He does. Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new regime, but we get to see some Anthony Richardson, which would be nice.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I do like his upside there. Michael Pittman, if he plays, a good receiver. So obviously Jonathan Taylor won't be playing, but he'll be
unless
here.
He's playing for the Bears.
I was gonna say he'll be here soon. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Let's not feed into that. I think people are going to start thinking that's actually our take.
Yeah. No, this was a good episode. I appreciate that everyone is supporting the show, and make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get things moving, get that Justin Fields / you get to choose jersey out there, and I think it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. After the preseason game, a lot of people might say, "Oh, I need a DJ Moore jersey."
That's right.
So, all right, Rob, nice job, man.
Nice, Justin. Bear down.
Bear down.
I swear to God, this fucking cursor.